Hello everyone! Today we are going to talk about Crons and workers configuration in Adobe Commerce Cloud, but before we do it, we will briefly explain what Crons and workers actually are and what is the difference between them. Alright, so let's start with Crons. And Crons are used to schedule and execute tasks at specified intervals. So for example, there are tasks such as reindexing, email generation, database cleanup, and those tasks needs to be executed periodically. So in the Cron configuration, you decide when those tasks will be executed. And the system, Adobe Commerce Cloud or any other server will be responsible for executing those tasks at this specific time. And we have two configuration options. So there is Adobe Commerce Cron system. So in the application itself, you have a pretty advanced system for managing Crons. And there is other option in Adobe Commerce Cloud. There is a Crons property in the Magento app YAM file. You can also use it to create new Crons, to configure some Cron jobs, but actually I prefer to firstly consider using the Adobe Commerce Cron system because there are like Cron groups, there are some specific configurations, there are some plugins in form of modules to actually extend the Cron system. Only in specific cases I would consider using the Adobe Commerce Cloud Crons, but there is this configuration option in Adobe Commerce Cloud, so let's explore it. But before we do it, let's now take a look at workers. And workers, comparing to Crons, are used to run long-running background processes continuously. So for instance, we can utilize queues or consumers from Adobe Commerce as they are background processes that monitor incoming messages, and when a message arrives, the processing begins. So this process needs to be active all the time to actually receive those upcoming messages. And that's why I mentioned here in the slide that we can use Adobe Commerce consumers, because those are long-running background processes that we can use for our purposes. But also there is this worker property in Magento app YAM file, so we can actually define whatever we want. So workers are not restricted to queues only. We can specify any other background tasks in the worker property in Magento app YAM file. And what is really important here, workers run independently from the web instance. Adobe Commerce Cloud creates a separate worker instance which is only responsible for running that particular worker job. We will see it in a moment, and for now let's switch to our PHP Storm project and see firstly the configuration of Crons. Alright, and we are in the Magento app YAM file, and here we can notice the Crons configuration section, and this is actually the default configurations for all the Adobe Commerce Cloud instances. And what we have here, so cron run is the name of a cron, spec is the time when this cron should be executed, so this is equal to executed every single minute. And at the command line, at the command property, we define what command will be executed. So here we define that bin Magento cron run will be executed, which is actually responsible for running, executing, managing all of the crons in the Adobe Commerce instance. And this is what I said on slides, that firstly I would consider using this system in Adobe Commerce to run crons, and only then, if there is a specific case you cannot do it in Adobe Commerce instance, then you can actually use this configuration to create your own cron. And if we go to the documentation page for the crons property, we can also notice there are two additional options which are actually optionals. So there is shutdown timeout. So if a cron job is cancelled, so if we kill, for example, a cron job, this is the number of seconds after which a sick kill signal is sent to stop the job or process. So if you require some shutdown policy, let's say, so for example, you kill this process, but you want to finish processing something in this particular process, then we can define that, for example, only kill this cron job after, for example, 1 minute or 10 minutes. Just, yeah, it depends on your use case. but there is also a timeout, like the shutdown timeout, the default is 10 seconds, so this is also worth mentioning. And there is also the timeout, which is the maximum amount of time a cron job can run before timeout, so it defaults to the maximum allowed value of 24 hours. So this is the time that a particular one cron job process can be running. All right, let's switch to PHP Store. And before we add a new cron to this configuration, I want to show you what I created. So I created two scripts, run cron and run worker. So those scripts will be actually executed when we create a new configurations for cron, and for a worker we will use the run worker. So what is actually created here? Simply, I get the current timestamp. I define that I want to save this timestamp to the varlog timestamp cron txt, and depending on what we configure in the schedule of a cron, we will see how often it is actually saved to this file. And for the run worker, there is a while true. So this is a, let's say, background process, background tasks that is also executing basically the same code, but this time it is saving the timestamp to the timestamp worker txt file, and it is actually sleeping, like waiting for 2 minutes to actually do something. So we will also configure this specific script in our workers configuration, so also we'll see how it works in this separate worker instance. Alright, so let's switch to Magento Abrian file, let's copy this configuration and let's paste it underneath. So the name of our cron will be timestamp cron, for example, the specification, so how often this command will be run. And this is what is really important here, so let's mention it before I will do next thing. So the cron's time specified in this section, in this property, is based on the server time zone. It is not the time zone specified in the store configuration values in the database. So this is really important if you have some tasks that are depending on each other, or depending on this particular time of your client's time zone or anything. It is important that it is the server time zone that is executed here. And also for the integration environment, so for the platform as a service environments, the minimum interval is once per 5 minutes. And for staging and production environments, so for the infrastructure as a service environments, the minimum interval is once per minute. So even if we configure this, that we want to execute it every single minute, the platform as a service will get a warning when we deploy that it's not actually valid, because it should be like executed minimally in 5 minutes interval. But what I noticed is that even on the platform as a service integration environments, even if there is this warning, still crons are executed like configured here. So I don't know why, but just I wanted to mention it so that you are aware. And also, if you are not an expert in cron configuration, you can use a page called Cron Tab Guru, which is helping to actually understand what is the format behind those, for example, 5 stars. So if we configure 5 stars like we have in the Magento Abrian file, we will see that it is executing at every minute, and you can even see that the next value is in 1 minute. So I recommend to use this page, and let's back to our project again. And right now in the command, we don't want to execute bin Magento cron run, we want to execute our own command, which is scripts and run cron php. So this is what we want to do. We want to execute the run cron php script in every minute. So the cron configuration is done. We could deploy this change in this file right now and see how it works. but to actually make it more efficient, let's also create a worker configuration here, and then we'll create like one commit, and we'll deploy the cron and worker change, and we will then see how it works in Adobe Commerce Cloud. So how to configure workers? Let's get back to our browser, and there is workers property documentation page, and here we have an example how we can configure a worker command. So we can simply copy this and paste it here. So what we have, workers, this is the property. A queue, in this context, this is actually a name of a worker, so let's actually name it timestamp worker. And this is important because command start, those two properties needs to be here. We cannot just simply use something like that. We have to have this command start, and then we can define that we want to execute PHP scripts run worker PHP. So this will be the background task that will be running in the timestamp worker instance. And what's also worth mentioning here is that we can only configure one command per worker instance. So if you have another background task that you want to configure, you will need to create a new worker for it. So this is the configuration that we want to deploy. Let's now switch to our terminal. We are in the Vaimo Pro project on the feature XYZ environment or branch. So now let's actually add this commit. So add cron and worker, and let's push it. So yeah, I push it by using the git push. We could also use the Magento Cloud environment push. Doesn't really matter in that case. But what is important here, we can see there is this message, validating configuration files, and there is two warnings. Cron run, the minimum interval between cron runs in 5 minutes, even if specified as less. So this is the message, the warning message that I have mentioned before. But like I said, even with this warning, I still notice that the cron on the integration environment is still executed every single minute. So yeah, let's not worry about it. Alright, and after a couple of minutes we are back. The deployment has finished, so now we can connect to our server and see if the cron and worker are working correctly. So to do it, let's go and run the Magento Cloud SSH. And here we can notice that we no longer are just connected to the server instance. Magento Cloud SSH is asking us actually to select the instance that we want to connect. And this is because we configured a worker, and here we can see that there is this My Magento timestamp worker, which is a name of our worker that we configured in the Magento app yum file. So for now, let's connect to the first instance, the instance with engines and everything that is exposed actual to the web. So let's choose the 0 option. We are connected, and let's go to the var log directory and see if there is the timestamp cron txt file. So we can see that indeed the timestamp cron txt file is created. So let's see what we have in here, and we can notice that indeed the cron is executed every single minute as timestamp suggests us. So now let's exit. Let's again execute Magento Cloud SSH, and let's right now use the My Magento timestamp worker. So let's connect to it and let's see what we've got here. So again, basically we have the same summary here. We can see that there are also the files from the Adobe Commerce instance here. Everything is actually the same. And if we go to the var log directory, we should see another file, and we only seeing the timestamp worker txt. So this is the file that we defined in the script, but as you can notice, we do not have any other file. So this is like a separate instance. So now let's open the timestamp worker and let's see what we have here. And indeed we can notice here that the timestamp file is actually updated every 2 minutes, which is the exact time that we configured in our script. So it's sleeping for 2 minutes and then adding the new timestamp to our file. And also, if we run the ps command to see the active processes, we can notice that there is this PHP script run worker running, and we can do an experiment. So let's say we kill this process, and after a couple of seconds, it's not immediate. Oh, it's immediate. So we can see that there is a new process with new PID, with new process ID. So Adobe Commerce Cloud is always making sure that this background process is running. If it's cancelled, if it's killed, then it creates a new process for it. Okay, so we know that crons and workers are working correctly. So now I want to show you some additional comment in Magento Cloud CLI. So let's run Magento Cloud list, and here at the very bottom there is a command called worker list. So we can run this command, and we can notice here that there is a table with a new entry called my Magento timestamp worker, and this is the name of our worker. We have a type and also a command that is executed for this particular worker. So here, by using this command, you can just confirm that indeed your worker is configured correctly on this particular environment. And also here you have some suggestions that you can list applications or services. So let's actually use this, and let's see Magento Cloud apps. So application is our my Magento, which is the instance with engines and basically the whole server that is executed when every request is sent to Adobe Commerce Cloud. So this is the main instance. And also we have services. So let's run services, and we can notice that there is MySQL, Redis, and OpenSearch right now created on this particular environment. And you can also see a new worker instance in the Cloud Console. So once you deploy the code, you can go to the Cloud Console, to your environment, and then on the SSH button, you can simply see that there is a indeed new worker created. And this is actually all for this video. So we were able to properly configure a new cron job, a new worker instance. So I hope that after watching this video, you are equipped with the knowledge that you can efficiently work with crons and workers. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.